Hey gang, Trevor here, and today I'm going to show you a demo of ForeFlight's Synthetic Vision capability that was just released this week. I'm going to be flying a 2014 Carbon Edition Cirrus SR22, and we're currently en route to Lake Tahoe Airport, which is Kilo Tango Victor Lima. And we're about to start a descent, so let's go ahead and bring up ForeFlight. As you can see, I'm running in split screen mode. I've got the low altitude IFR and route chart on the right hand side of the screen, and that's been overlaid with the GPS 18 approach at Tahoe. And on the left hand side of the screen is the star of this video, ForeFlight's newest feature, Synthetic Vision. So one of the cool things that we can do is we can make the screen larger or full screen if we want, and in doing so we can now get the full picture of all of the terrain that surrounds us. So as you can see, Washoe Lake is coming up right below us here, and then Lake Tahoe is just over those peaks. A few things to note about the Synthetic Vision display. You can see our ground speed and our GPS altitude tapes on the left and the right, along with what is basically an attitude indicator driven by an AHRS unit. FSX flight in this case is the add-on program that I'm using to provide that information. Below that is a virtual CDI that displays our active leg, as well as the active leg information at the top of the screen. Now we're starting to get pretty close to the top of descent, and since we don't have an actual VNAV capabilities in the Carenado SR22, we can actually use the Reality XP Garmin to compute our VSR, or vertical speed required. In this case, I'm going to tell the Reality XP Garmin that we want to be at 10,800 feet, 2 nautical miles before Obave, and that's now showing our computed VSR, which we can then use to judge where we want to descend and the rate at which we want to go down. So with that, it looks like now would be a good time to start down. So let me go ahead and set our new altitude, and we'll initiate the descent. We're now in the intermediate segment of the approach, coming up on Obave at 10,800 feet MSL. There we'll start down toward the final approach fix, which, as you can see on the chart, is Survey, which we'll want to cross at 8,300 feet. And ceiling and visibility are not much of a concern today, but if we do need to go missed, we'll do a climbing right turn to 12,000 feet and go direct Hetry and hold from there. So resetting our altitude here for Severi at 8,300, and you can see the magenta line on both the virtual CDI and as well as the chart overlay is looking pretty good. Looks like we're in the right place and headed in the right direction. On a non-precision approach, now is probably a good time to run the before landing checklist. So check boost pump is on, mixture is set, fuel's on the full tank, and we'll hold off on the flaps and keep the autopilot on for now. A couple things about the Synthetic Vision screen that have now come into view that are probably worth mentioning. One thing you'll probably notice first is that TVL now has a pop-up indicator showing exactly where the airport is. That also shows any other neighboring airports, so it really aids in situational awareness in that respect. Also, as we get a little bit closer to the airport and to the ground, you'll notice that obstacles started appearing on the display. And then lastly, off in the horizon, you can barely see it, but we're starting to pick up the colors indicating the terrain height relative to the aircraft's altitude. In this case, yellow is for terrain that's between 1,000 and 100 feet below the aircraft, red's for terrain that's higher, and then obviously green is anything that's 1,000 feet or greater below the aircraft. So let's continue this approach. Looks like the winds that were reported as calm on the METAR are showing just a little bit of a tailwind pushing us now. You can see our ground speed readout is a little bit higher than what our airspeed's indicating. Synthetic Vision's doing its thing, and what we've got set up here is actually pretty close to what we'd see in a real Cirrus with the Garmin Perspective SVT Synthetic Vision. And I mean, you can really see how much of a benefit this would be if we were flying this approach in solid IFR with those 8,000 foot plus mountains surrounding us and surrounding this valley. It's nice to know that we're in a pretty good position here to avoid that terrain as well as any other hazards on the ground. It's really creating and aiding our situational awareness. So I'm going to let the video roll as we continue down the approach so you can see how everything kind of comes together and contributes to our situational awareness on this approach. A couple things to watch for as we get a bit closer to the airport. Be watching for the ground obstacles to start to appear in the synthetic vision display, and you'll also start to see a simplified version depiction of the airport itself, the runway layout, so we can start to get that here as we get a little bit closer as well. The autopilot has captured 8300, and now that we're just outside of Sèvres, which is our final approach fix, I'm going to add my first notch of flaps and increase our power to maintain at around 100 knots or so. From there, it's going to be a slight dogleg to the right toward the airport. If we were in IMC, we'd be headed down to 7,160 MSL for the straight-in GPS 1.8. But obviously, as you can see around us here, that's not the case, and we should have no problems getting the runway in sight today. Passing Sèvres now, autopilot disconnected, and down we go. I do have the airport in sight, so I will set us up for the straight in for 1.8, and again, just keep the video rolling so that you can see how synthetic vision starts to pick up the airport environment and the terrain and the obstacles that surround it. Just crossing over the shoreline here now. Terrain on the synthetic vision display is starting to turn yellow as we get within 1,000 feet of the ground. And the runway itself is appearing as well. Obviously that will help us quite a bit in identifying the correct runway as we get a little bit closer. My apologies for my computer struggling to keep up and load all of the terrain here. It's an unfortunate side effect of recording this video, and off-the-shelf FSX paired with the Orbix Tahoe scenery, which is amazing, I might add, but unfortunately you're not able to see very much of it here. But get a little bit closer here. Still showing a little bit of a tailwind pushing us across the ground. Not too major. Shouldn't be too much of a problem here. Coming up on 500 to go.
500.
Landing looks assured. Flaps are full. Mixture's good. Boost pumps on low. Synthetic vision now recognizes that we're landing, so we've got green terrain surrounding the runway, and you can clearly identify the runway now. sort of weird scenery anomaly there. It looks almost like they forgot to plow the runway after snow. I'll continue, see if it fixes itself. There we go. And we're down a bit fast, but that's what we get for believing Flight Sim AWAS that said winds were calm, and actually ended up with a tailwind, but that's how it goes. So you saw the runway number pop up there on the synthetic vision depiction. That's what I was referring to earlier. And I'll continue to roll out here. You'll see that runway centerline stripes show up on ForeFlight. And as we slow down to taxi speed, the airport diagram will automatically pop up in ForeFlight as well. So hopefully you've enjoyed the flight. A short clip of the synthetic vision feature now available in ForeFlight 6.6. I should mention that I'm in no way associated with ForeFlight, but I do think that this technology is pretty cool. And I really enjoy being able to use it both for my real world flying as well as my flight simming. So again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.